Today we're going to continue and expand on what I discussed in the previous session. Just to set the scene or the theme for today's session. In the previous session I talked about what I had observed amongst most modern, westernized, Western educated, intellectual ladies, but more specifically a disparity, a contrast between what was observable amongst the general population in England and what was observable amongst the black British women. And in the session I made reference to the fact that it appeared that the feminine traditional values that we once used to celebrate amongst ladies seemed to be dwindling and seemed to be almost non-existent. And I contrasted that between two groups. I shared that from my observation and by just being curious, I noticed that amongst especially the black British born, British educated, British raised ladies, there was almost an absence of being feminine or being traditional in their manners and in their interaction, especially with men. What I'd like to do today is provide some questions and potentially some solutions to how you can navigate through this issue should you find yourself to be in either of the two groups. There's always room for improvement. Like I said, my intention is to help. My intention is not to disparage or to insult or to ridicule anyone or any group. But we have a problem. And in part, what we are finding is that behaviors and virtues and etiquettes that we once celebrated are no longer being celebrated as they should. And in interactions between ladies and men, or men and women, we're finding that men are starting to demand a little bit more from ladies. Now, what I'd like to do is give you some examples of some ladies, some women that you might know, and even if you do not know them by heart, you will know at the end of the session. Now, I'd like you to just think. Let me see if I can give you perhaps a few names, and hopefully let's play a game of trying to associate the feminine virtue, the feminine personability with either of the names. Now think about this. Let's use Bond. Let's use James Bond. In James Bond's films, we now have a new 007. I believe her name is Lashana Lynch. She is the new 007. I'd like you to compare Lashana with NAOMIE HARRIS. Both of them are in the Bond movies. Both women are black. Amongst the two women, by disposition, by visual selection, which of the two women would you say has more or exudes more of a feminine nature? In my opinion, I would say that when you look at both women, NAOMIE has more of a feminine demeanor. There's just something about her when you look at NAOMIE, you just see a oneness with nature, a lady who is comfortable with her beauty, a lady who is happy and content with her self-image, and a lady who does not need to war against nature. Now, the distinctiveness or the distinct difference between both ladies comes down to one simple thing. Both of them are beautiful women. Both of them are successful women. But if you were to do a Google search of both ladies, what you find is that when you look at both of them and you look at how they smile, it's so distinct. Naomi has a feminine smile, a softness to her, like something to be nurtured and catered for. And Lashana has a very hard demeanor. In most of the pictures I saw, she seldom smiles. Well, she smiles, but she smiles with her mouth closed, which is how most men normally smile. Now, let me give you a different set of women. Let's move to Brad Pitt, and let's say Angelina Jolie and Jennifer Aniston. If you had to choose which had more of a feminine demeanor, which would you choose? Now, I would choose Jennifer Aniston. Angelina Jolie is gorgeous. Jennifer Aniston is equally gorgeous. But here is the difference. If you were to poll, and I could be wrong, and we'll find out soon, if you were to poll 10 men randomly, or if you were to poll 1,000 men, I suspect that 90% of them would say, I will date Angelina Jolie, but I will marry Jennifer Aniston. The same thing would happen between Lashana and Naomi Harris. There is something soft, there is a softness to Jennifer Aniston that you seldom see in Angelina Jolie. Angelina has a very hard smile. She has a disposition, a countenance, in my opinion, of a man. There isn't that softness, there isn't that girly nature, that princess wanting to be rescued, that can someone just help, that I'm sure I can influence all the boys with my hair. When you look at Jennifer Aniston, what you see is a soft, kind, natured demeanor. Now, I'm not judging their personalities. Again, both women equally beautiful. I'll give you a different example. Let's use Peter Andre, and let's look at his ex-wife and his current wife, Katie Price. We adjust for all of the plastic surgery, but if you were to look at Katie Price when she was still very young and beautiful, very little plastic surgery, no enhancements. If you were to compare her to Emily McDoug, which is Peter's new wife, who would you say has more of a feminine, traditional, soft, attractive nature or features? In my opinion, it would have to go to Emily. There is something quite soft. There is something quite girlish. There is something quite delicate. There is something quite, I would say, precious about Emily. I'm adjusting for enhancements. Now, what I'm not doing and what I have not done between each of these ladies, I'm not comparing their beauty. I'm simply saying, when you see both of them, which of them exudes a feminine nature? Now, let me conclude with one that might be maybe more obvious. Michelle Obama and Kate Middleton. Two equally powerful, successful, impressive women. When you see Michelle Obama and when you see Katie or Kate Middleton, which of the two exudes the beauty, the softness, the girlishness, the femininity. I would assume, now I could be wrong, I would assume that you would agree with me that Katie has more of the feminine qualities, the way she smiles, the way she smirks, the way she carries herself, her gesture, her walk, even how she speaks is very feminine. Let's look at this just a little bit further. If you've ever seen Michelle Obama with Barack Obama, it's almost as though she, Michelle, is trying to lead. In every single encounter that I have seen, there is something to be said about her wanting to be equal. Although Barack was the president. Now, to understand this more, you have to go back and look at all of the American presidents and compare how their wives stood with them or by them, and how their wives spoke with them and on behalf of them. What you find is that Michelle takes more of a masculine front, more of an aggressive, even her demeanor. There is nothing girlish. There is nothing soft. There is a lot that is hard, dominant, emotionally tough. There is almost nothing nurturing in Michelle compared to Katie or Kate Middleton. Now, I've used these examples because I believe that with each of the examples I have provided, you can go away and you can use both groups as a benchmark for yourself and just ask yourself the question, if someone else was to rate me and based on their encounters with me, how would they rate me? Would they say that I am more feminine, girlish, soft, gentle, kind, smiling? Like, there's something to be said about being able to smile and show your teeth. Most of the ladies that I just described, Michelle Obama, Lanasha, and Katie Price, and Jennifer Aniston, they all have beautiful smiles. They're beautiful women, but they seldom smile. They seldom, when they smile, it almost feels as though they have their mouths closed. Now, the slight exception to this, I have to say, is Michelle Obama. She does smile, and you do see her teeth, and she does have beautiful teeth. However, if you were to compare her to all the other ladies I mentioned, Kate Middleton, Emily, NAOMIE Harris, what you tend to find, and Jennifer Aniston, that they have a softness, they have the body language, a sense of gentleness. They're more feminine. So I'd like you to evaluate yourself and ask yourself the same question. If someone was to judge how feminine I present myself, where would they put me and what would they score me? What I'd like to do next is talk about this feminine aspect to ladies and having a traditional nature, which I believe, now I might be in the minority, and if I am, hands up, but I might be in the minority. But I believe that having the feminine and the traditional values, attributes, mannerisms, temperament, I believe it's an advantage. It's a powerful tool to have as a lady. And so what I will do in the next few minutes is just ask questions. And as I ask these questions, I'd like you to stop, think about yourself, evaluate your position before coming up with an answer. Stop, think about yourself, evaluate your position before responding. As a matter of fact, it might be useful to get people who are perhaps not too emotionally involved with you to evaluate you using these questions. I often say that a friend is someone who loves you just the way you are. A mentor, a coach, a guardian is someone who loves you too much to leave you the way you are. So here's the first question. Your voice, the pitch, the tone, the flow of your sentencing, is it feminine or is it more masculine? When you speak, is there a softness to you? Now, if you cannot answer this question, I would suggest you take your phone and you record yourself speaking, and then you play it back and be objective and ask yourself the question, does my voice, does it sound gentle? Does it sound sexy? Does it sound feminine? Really that simple. Now, we will deal with the feminine side, and then when we are done, we can talk about the traditional aspects to the virtues and the attributes that could be useful. Now, all of these may not be applicable in your case. I understand. Some of it could make a difference. Now, if you were to observe yourself, question number 2, how you walk. If there was a camera that was recording your every walk on the streets, in the office, in the gym, would your walk be feminine or more broad, strong, powerful, and masculine? If someone was to have a video recording device and they recorded how you sit, how you stand, when you sit, how you cross your legs, do you sit with your legs open? When you're wearing trousers, how do you sit? When you're wearing a dress, how do you sit? Would they identify that your behavior does not have feminine tendencies? It's a simple one. I think that's quite easy. You can sit in your living room and all through the day, you can just observe yourself, your skeletal frame, how you carry yourself, your posture. Is it more dominating or is it more passive and soft? Again, I'll let you be the judge of that. Now, the third is, are you girlish? If your friends, male friends, female friends, your brothers, your sisters, your parents, or your neighbors, if they were to define or describe you, would they say that you are girlish? Now, obviously, you are a girl. But by girlish, I'm referring to whether you have a softness to you. Are you delicate? Are you something to be cherished and treasured? Or are you just fine by yourself? Now, let me give you an anecdotal example. Many years ago, I had a friend. It wasn't an intimate relationship. We were just friends. We studied in the same university in London. I received a message from her to say that she had arrived at home and she noticed that someone had broken into her flat. So I came to her place. I arrived. Someone had indeed broken into the flat. Now, she lived alone. So, now this was roughly at about maybe 7:30 p.m. So I said to her, I lived alone. I said to her, here are my keys. You can go, here is my address. you can go to my place and you can stay at my place, and I will stay at your place, so that at my place you're safe. If I stayed at your place, I can ensure that your belongings are safe, and should anyone come back, they would at least be confronting a man. It seemed like, in my opinion, a reasonable offer. Guess what? She refused. She said that the gesture was kind and it was great, but that she felt it would be fine and that she would stay in her place with the doors that had just been kicked down. And she did. Of course, I didn't push it too much. We get to choose. Eventually, we all get to choose. She stayed in the place. She called the next morning to say she couldn't sleep. But here was the issue. She stayed. In many ways, she felt as though she could defend herself. Perhaps she could. The whole point I'm trying to make is there was nothing girlish. You know, a lady will not stay in a house that's been broken into with no security and stay there alone. She had no fear. Guess what? I hate to say this. Don't shoot the messenger. She was black. Black British. Now, I'm not suggesting that such behaviors are exclusive to one group. I'm simply saying that we've created a generation of young women who have been trained and conditioned to think that they cannot be girlish. They do not want to be princesses looking for someone to rescue them. They've been trained to think what a man can do, they can do. They've been trained to believe that they can defend themselves. They don't need protection from a man. They don't need provision from a man because they can provide that all by themselves. Just an example. So the key and the reason I refer to this example was just to say, are you gentle? Do people describe you as girlish? Do people describe you as soft and delicate and something to be preserved? Now, here is what's said. I saw her as something to be preserved and nurtured and protected. She saw herself as equally capable of providing that protection herself. Now, if you naturally have that aggressive or that feeling that you can survive on your own, you're not feminine. If you have the feeling that I can do just fine by myself without a man, you're not feminine. If you are one of those ladies who can go for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks without the voice of her father or without speaking to her father, assuming her father is still in her life, if you can go for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks without reconnecting with father or dad, you're not feminine. You're too hard. Anyway, let's move on. Number 4, your body language. How would people describe your body language? Would they say that you have a feminine body language? How do you dress? Do you dress in a feminine way? Now, in London and in the UK, we have a different fashion style and sense, and it goes through cycles. Nonetheless, there are still feminine ways of dressing. Now, here is perhaps the litmus test. Across all of your outfits, what percentage of your outfits are dresses? if the percentage of your outfits that are dresses is less than 40%, the likelihood that you are feminine is very low. Do you wear dresses? Or are you more comfortable wearing jeans and leggings and trousers? Or are you more comfortable? Do you feel more beautiful? Do you feel natural in your place when you wear a dress? If the answer is yes, you are feminine. By disposition, it comes natural to you. Otherwise, you're slightly more masculine. Now, I have to make a statement, which is, obviously you can't wear a dress to every single formal or work-related engagement. Some people work in different environments, but what tends to happen is that those who are feminine, even if they do not have enough opportunities to wear dresses, it happens to be the case that if you were to look through all of their outfits, more than 40% will be either dresses or feminine attires. Second question, your footwear. If we looked through all of your footwear, what proportions of your footwears would be high heels or elegant shoes or elegant sandals, but feminine type sandals, the type of shoes that you can wear down the road and people stop and look, especially men? Or are most of your footwear shoes, thick sandals, boots, trainers, running shoes, walking shoes, hiking shoes? If the proportion of your footwear that are shoes, I mean beautiful, elegant, dress shoes, shoes you would wear out for dates, for dinner, for weddings, for special occasions, if the proportion of your shoes is less than 30%, you are slightly less feminine. Just some examples. Now I'm speaking from a man's point of view. You know, if we both got ready to go out, would your shoes be more feminine or would they look similar to mine? If I wore trainers, would you wear trainers? Here's a good one. If you knew you were going on a date with your other half or with your husband or your partner, what kind of shoes come natural to you? Comfortable shoes, flat soles, trainers, boots, or beautiful shoes? Now I'll let you decide whether you are on that scale, whether you're leaning towards being more feminine or leaning away from being more feminine. Now, let's look at something else. Let's look at your body. Tattoos. Do you have tattoos? Size, position, scale, design. If you have tattoos that are too visible on your arms, down your legs, on your neck, that's not feminine. On the other hand, you could be feminine and have some tattoos, but usually those tattoos will be small, discreet, placed in positions that are not intrusive. Because here's the idea of this tattoo issue. Your body should be the art that you're looking to display. If you see a beautiful painting of a Mona Lisa, you do not put a tattoo on the Mona Lisa. Feminine, girly girls recognize that their body is the price. Your body is your price. And so even if you were to get a tattoo, it would normally be small, discreet. It would have some meaning. It wouldn't be some, artwork because you love arts. It wouldn't be some design because you love design. It would have a meaning. The location, the size, and the type will be considerate, especially relative to your size, your age, and the complexion of your skin. So now, that doesn't mean if you have already, because sometimes some people get tattoos very young and often without much consideration. But from a man's point of view, when we see tattoos, we think that's your way of communicating to the world the value you see in yourself and your body. Again, that is your way of communicating to men the value you see in yourself and your body. Now, the next one is smiling. Does that come natural? Do you smile a lot? Or do people have to ask you to smile? Or do people regularly say to you, you have a wonderful, you have a beautiful, you have an attractive smile? If you get the compliment regularly from people you've just met, and they say, you have an amazing smile, you are more feminine, or at least you're playing the feminine role as you should. On the other hand, if smiling is a chore, if perhaps you laugh or you show your teeth seldomly or occasionally, then it might be that your facial muscles have been conditioned, and that could be justifiable. Maybe pain, hardship, your life experiences. However, there is a Chinese saying that he who does not have a smile and will not wear their smile should not have a shop, because your interaction with people judge you based on what they see. Now, there are some people who do not always smile, but they have a softness to their face. They have a gentleness to their face. But some people are just beautiful. So all they have to do is stare at you, and suddenly